Welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Danielle, and we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of the best and worst movies from the late 90s and early 2000s. And this week, we're continuing the Scream saga with Scream 2.
Scream 2 is the rushed 1997 American slasher sequel to Wes Craven's Scream. Like its predecessor, Scream 2 combines the violence of the slasher genre with elements of comedy, satire, and whodunit mystery, while exploring the cliché of film sequels. Unlike its predecessor, we do not get Matthew Lillard to leaven the mood. It stars David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jamie Kennedy, Laurie Metcalf, Timothy Olyphant, Elise, Neal, Jerry O'Connell, Jada Pinkett, Omar Epps, and Liev Schreiber. It was written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Wes Craven, and you can watch it on Peacock. But before we start, let's get into our ratings rewind.
So, you know the drill. Before we get into the movie, we'll reveal the rating our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. Then at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial rating. Our scale consists of would buy it again.
The best, would play on repeat.
5-day rental.
Would watch again.
2-day rental.
Okay, but nothing to write home about.
And same-day rental.
Slash this trash.
Yep. So, Jackie, what's your Y2K rating?
I think it was a 5-day rental. I don't think I own the second one. And the original Scream is one of like my all-time favorite movies, but this one just did not resonate the same way.
So I don't know. So I bought it. I'm gonna say it was a would buy for me. And I do remember because in college that first year, and even the second year, the first year we didn't have cable in our dorms. So, I had my business Blockbuster where I was renting out VHSs from my collection, and Scream 2 was in rotation. And so, yeah, I know this movie by heart in the sense that I know what's happening. I don't know why I was rewatching this movie. And look, I am a huge fan of the entire, saga, the franchise. You can it could be shitty and I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to go see it. But I got some issues. So you ready to dive in?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Well, like you said, this movie was quickly made. It wasn't much turnaround after they made the first movie. The budget for this movie was $24 million and domestically made $101 million, and then altogether $172 million. So it was still a damn hit. Hence why we were getting more. To this day, we're still getting more. And at the time, it had the record for being the biggest December opening weekend with $33 million. And it held that record for a while until 2000 when it was beaten by What Women Want. That's it's a surprising one. I like that movie, but it just throws me off when I see that's what beat its December opening.
Yeah, and it feels rushed. Also, they had to change the ending because the script was leaked online.
Yeah.
So originally, Haley,
but
she was originally supposed to be the character and secretly in a relationship with Derek, the boyfriend who was supposed to be the other killer. But after the script was leaked, they changed it to the ending.
That is what it is. So the funny thing is, I think I would have enjoyed it more if Haley ended up being the killer. So I went on Twitter because I was feeling feels and I couldn't talk to you about it after I watched the movie, obviously, because we try to stay fresh. But I was just wondering when you try to get a pulse of people, if you're like, are people feeling the same way as, you know? And somebody wrote, Wes Craven contractually obligated to include more Black people in this one. Now, this particular person, Liam Underwood, on Twitter, I don't know if he's just racist and was mad there were Black people in it, or was he questioning the same way I was? Because like I've watched some interviews and stuff with Jada Pinkett and how like gung-ho she was about being in this movie, and that she asked Wes to have this crazy long-winded kill. And as I'm watching the movie, we did Scary Movie, and I was just like, this fucking movie is Scary Movie. It just is.
Yes. It is a better written, I use that loosely, better written scary movie.
Yeah. And so if I was going to sum up this movie, I would say out of all of the, I can't say trilogy anymore because there's 4 now, about to be 5, the franchise, I would say this is Scream 2 is the one with the Black people. And
fair.
Yeah.
And there's a total of
3. Yeah. And no, there are 4. There's 4 Black people in this movie.
Yes, Joel.
And yes. one survives. And the thing is, I remember after Scream 1, there was some discourse about just like how white the movie was. And so we talked about this before. I don't like diversity for diversity's sake, right? Like if you're going to have diversity, but you don't know what the fuck to do with it, and you're still falling into tropes that even in movies and the horror genre are known for, what are we doing here? You know, they, in the beginning, they start to talk, and Jada's and Omar Epps characters, Maureen and Steve, so these 2 characters are going to the movies. So we now know that the Scream saga has been turned into a movie within a movie called Stab. They're going to go see it. And then, you know, they're a couple, they're having this banter. And some parts I could say, okay, felt very authentic to the Black experience. But still, I know that whoever's writing them is not Black.
Correct.
I feel it in the way that they're talking, and the only reason any of it is translating or feeling authentic in any way is because of the actors. And I just kind of feel like if you're not going to get a Black writer to write for Black characters, just write it like you write the white people. Just leave it alone. Don't try to add. It was
there were hints of angry Black women.
Yes.
That like trope of like just being combative for combative sake, which didn't need to be there. She could get her point across and not be in that combative state.
So if you read some dissertations that are on the internet about this movie, one of them goes into that there was an article that's really just saying, what was Scream 2 trying to say about race? Because it felt like it was trying to say something. And that's why Scary Movie did so well, because essentially it is the plot of this particular movie with some pieces of the first. But this one is really where they were pulling a lot from. Yeah, they did it better because they had it from the viewpoint of Black people being in that situation.
Yeah, because it was written by the Wayans brothers.
Right. And so that's what we loved about the first Scream, was that it was touching on all of these cliches in scary movies, and they had an opportunity. They set it up to be able to talk about some of those cliches and some of the things that they fucked up in the first movie with the lack of diversity. If you look at it from that perspective, again, when I looked at Scream, I was not looking for diversity because I knew it was a bunch of rich white people living up in the hills of California. I get it. Fine. Yeah. But if you're going to do this, you killed Jada, you killed the Black people first. What are we doing? So you add Black people and then you kill them gruesomely. You make their language way more, they curse more than most of the other white people in the movie.
Yeah.
It threw me off.
It's like a cultural caricature of.
Right.
Yeah.
So everybody in the comments talks about Wes Craven, but I really think this issue of diversity is Kevin Williamson. Now, hear me out. I seen so many of his shit at this point. I mean, Dawson's Creek, ain't nobody on the creek black, not one person black on the creek at all. And then we had that issue with Vampire Diaries. We did have one black person. We had an entire family, but the way that they were sidelined and how shitty they were treated. I know that wasn't just him. That was Marlene and some of the writers as well, but he sets the tone. It keeps happening. Every project teaching Mrs. Tingle, like, no diversity. So I'm going to blame him.
And I don't think there's anything wrong per se with writing in the narrative,
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. But if you acknowledge, hey, we have an opportunity here. We're going to a college where it will be not just a community based, but more of different people from all different walks of life coming together for a shared experience. So I need to do my due diligence and pull in other people from other walks of life to be able to write to those different experiences.
Yeah.
And it's so I like knowing enough about yourself and like, this is what I know, this is how I write, but I want to make it more
authentic and
right.
Yeah.
And just being able, like, being willing and self-reflective enough to bring those elements and the people that can assist you in creating those elements in an authentic manner.
Yeah. I mean, Wes Craven, he did Vampire in Brooklyn. He did People Under the Stairs. And those were, the very few Black horror movies that we have. Those are definitely some of the classics. Were they great? That's another day.
Let's get into it. So you kind of hit on it. So we're at a movie theater. It's a
Phil Stevens. Sorry.
Phil.
Yes.
Okay. Omar Epps plays Phil. Jada plays Maureen. They're a couple that's dating. They're going to the movies. She wants to see the Sandra Bullock rom-com, but he has free tickets to a screening of Stab based on the
Hillsborough murders.
And they're handing out costumes and like fake knives to everyone going to see the movie. Maureen is not into it. She's like, this is just a movie. Very much like Danielle's synopsis of The Mummy, like white girls getting cut the fuck up is like the synopsis she gives for the movie. Not wrong. And so they go in and they start watching the movie, and then that's where it gets into some of the tropes that are closer to reality, the yelling at the screen and things like that.
Yeah. I was just like, so I really got excited in the beginning of the movie when they were having this discourse and having this conversation about like, this is a movie with the white people making stupid decisions, because, and come on, that's what a lot of the horror movies are.
Yes,
it really is. And that's fine. And they're fun, but that's what they started to have the conversation about. So I was like, oh, okay. So they're really about to do something. They're about to do something. No,
they're about to die.
Yes.
And so it's about like 10 or 15 minutes into the like movie within a movie. And I really love how she's, I want popcorn, give me money. And he's like, you got your own money. She's like, I have my money. I asked for your money. I was like, if you're on a date, I mean.
So when I was looking at some of the discourse online, there were a lot of crazy, angry trolls on Twitter who called her racist, by the way, because she said it was a crazy movie about white people making stupid decisions. They're like, I didn't know Jada was so racist in this movie. I was like, do y'all know what racism is? Okay. And then they go into, and she like, look at her broke ass. She's asking for his money. It was interesting. Just like, why are
to a free movie? Pay for the popcorn. Like, could she have phrased it a little nicer? Sure, but it's also a fucking movie and you're looking for laughs. So that line made me fucking laugh. Mission accomplished. So they go, we immediately get Pepsi product placement.
All I was thinking about was who goes to the movie and is really trying to be on some fucking diet. Either you're just gonna go all in or you're not, right? You're not gonna
popcorn, no butter, and a diet Pepsi, please.
Yeah. Jada, please. That's all I was thinking about.
And then she's kind of walking back towards the theater doors, and Omar Epps pops out wearing the costume now, and she's like, motherfucker, like, don't do that shit.
Yeah, I would have broke up with him. There's no way. That's scary.
And then there's a piece of continuity, and I couldn't quite figure it out, but I think I'm right. So he's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going back inside. I'm pretty sure he takes the drink with him, but then when she gets into the theater, she has the drink. I was like, because I literally wrote in my notes, why'd he take the drink to the bathroom with him? And then in the next scene she had it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I didn't imagine that. Like,
we'll have to
go back and look.
Yeah.
So he goes to the bathroom, the urinals are all full, and everyone's dressed as the ghost face.
Yeah, that's what
I'm gonna do that thing. Two ghost face at a urinal.
Yeah.
2 urinals, not 8. They're not 2 ghost face, 1 urinal. And I'm probably gonna call him Ghost Face Killer again, because that's just, I have to like mentally put the brakes on to not add killer. And so I watched this with the captions on.
Me too.
So when he starts hearing like the weird shit in the stall next door, so
yeah,
he has to use a stall
because these two idiots are peeing like snails at the urinal.
Yes. And so like there's this weird whispering, and like if you don't have the captions on, it's just weird whispering. Yeah. Did you see what I saw on the captions?
You know what? So I don't know what happened, but like I said, oh, I have the captions so I can actually listen. And then for a second, I think I looked at my phone and then I missed it. So then I was just like, I'm not going back. What did it say? Tell me, girl. Tell me.
I'm going to get real close. Here's some bathroom ASMR for you. I swear I'll be good, Mommy. I'll tell you, Mommy. I'll tell you why I did it, Mommy. I'm so sorry, Mommy. Those were the captions, Danielle. What in the actual fuck? Did someone just have fun with the captions?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, 100%.
The last line goes, inaudible whispers. I'm like, why wasn't it just inaudible whispers the whole time? Why you gotta freak me out on a whole nother level? I don't appreciate this.
What? And this part, it will never make sense to me, because I don't know Phil's character because we don't see him long, but in my heart, I feel like Phil would not be nosy like that. I think he would have just gone to piss, shaken his head, and said these white people are crazy, and washed his hands and left. I just don't understand.
The only thing I could, hold on, sorry. Okay. The only thing that I could rationalize is he thought maybe someone was like having ghost face sex in the next stall and was kind of like, ooh.
Why does it have to be ghost face sex?
Everyone's dressed in a costume. Obviously it's ghost face sex. So he leans in real close, and to quote the amazing movie that is Billy Madison, He's physically abused in the ear.
Oh my God.
He gets stabbed through a stall, which I'm like, I don't think anyone has enough grip strength to actually drive the sharpest knife in the world through a stall wall into the ear of another person. Plus the aim, like, how do you know where his ear is on that wall?
Right. Disbelief.
A lot of these killings and like stalking things make no sense in this movie.
Yeah.
Like there's no, unless they have sonar, like there's no way
it was ghost face killer dolphin sex.
Maybe eventually. So yeah, poor Omar Epps. I don't know why.
So Maureen is like watching it and she's talking to the screen and
watching the movie and talking to the screen.
Yeah. But at this point, I know it's a trope, but it's so loud in that movie theater. People are just standing in the aisles. Like there's no semblance of a real movie watching experience.
No.
So one thing we did miss was that before Phil went to the bathroom and she even went to go get her concession stand snacks, we do see a glimpse of the movie and we see Heather Graham getting into the shower and it's supposed to be like a naked scene and whatnot. I just wanted to note that because they did film they actually filmed like a whole little mini movie and it was directed by Robert Rodriguez, but due to some legality issues, Wes Craven had to reshoot. So what we see, I guess, with Heather Graham is what he shot. But I'm really curious as to know what that stab movie will look like when Robert Rodriguez has shot the little scene. So
interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I never had the DVD. I only had it on VHS. So I don't even know what the bonus features are on that.
Yeah, we'll have to try and go on YouTube and see if we can dig up stuff.
Yeah.
So now Phil, but like in air quotes.
Oh, right.
Phil
sorry. Yeah.
comes and sits back down next to her. He's still wearing the ghost face mask and is wearing like his leather jacket that he's wearing.
Yeah.
And so it's a really scary scene. And so Maureen kind of like hugs his shoulder and hides her face and stuff. And then she like turns to face the screen again and settle in her seat. And then she realizes her hands are covered in blood. And so she looks and he stabs her just like, wasn't even in the middle of the chest, and it was above the stomach, like just like in the center of her torso. So then she's like looking at him in horror and she's trying to get away from him. And because the entire auditorium is just chaos and ghost face costumes and like fake knives, no one's really paying attention to her while this is happening, except there was one guy that I guess she grabs or something, and he looks at his arm and is like confused because there's like blood all over his arm.
Yeah.
But that's all we get of anyone that seems even slightly concerned. And so she's continually stabbed as she makes her way to the front of the theater and stands up in front of the movie screen and just kind of lets out this like gut-wrenching howl almost.
Yeah.
And then she falls and is dead.
I want to have a conversation with Jada, and not as much with Omar, but Jada, because she was so gung-ho and she said she had all these talks with Wes Craven. Like, sis, you didn't think this situation of being how you were killed, because it was so much more. I mean, the killings were a little bit more gruesome in this movie because you see a lot of the stabs, but this one was just, it didn't make me feel right. It didn't sit right with me how she was killed and for what. Because now that we know who were the killers and stuff like that, and maybe this happened because that's who they planned, the original killers, there would have maybe been some beef because they were students together or whatever. But now looking back, there is no reason except for they have that like, oh, we were just trying to find people's names that match the original killings, but it's weak.
And like try to have a shocking beginning like the first Scream, which you're never going to replicate that. Don't even try. It's not going to happen. Like that was
one and done.
Yeah, kismet. Like all the stars aligned, and it was the most perfect opening to a horror movie that you could possibly do. Yeah. So I think that we're just trying to kind of grasp at trying to do something similar with some other fairly well-known actors at the time. And for Jada, I think she just wanted, like, for me, all I can speculate is she was just looking at a lens. And also to note, the entire time I'm watching her getting killed, I'm like, in her last moments of life, does she think her boyfriend is killing her?
I think when she looks at him, she knows it's not him. When she realizes there's blood on his jacket, she knows he's dead. Like there's this she does give a really good scene where the way that she looks at him, it's like it's resonating in her brain that's not him. And something has happened because she does see all this blood on she like has all this blood on from his jacket. So I think she knows that it's not him.
I was just worried that like,
yeah, that would be a horrible feeling.
Oh my gosh, awful. Okay, so now, credits roll up, Scream 2. Phone rings just like in the first movie. And we see Sydney's like asleep in bed. Her phone's ringing. She answers it. It's Ghostface voice. What's your favorite scary movie? And she's just like unbothered, which I don't think you'd ever get past the trauma.
No.
Of hearing that voice.
No, I feel like a better response to the trauma of that was executed by a wonderful Julie James in I Know What You Did Last Summer. Even though it was just like bad acting, she really was sad. She really was depressed. And I don't know how many years have gone by since the last Scream and this movie. So I don't know how long she's had a chance to kind of go to intense therapy and work through some stuff. But maybe having the caller ID and having the experience of knowing that logically knowing these are a bunch of kids making fun of her.
So we find out Sydney's now in college. She has a roommate, Hallie. And Sydney seems very well adjusted. She has a new boyfriend. His name is Derek, played by Jerry O'Connell, which
so beautiful.
I just love him.
Yeah. The cool thing about him is that we've grown up watching him from Stand By Me and up.
And then also in the scene, Hallie turns on the TV while they're getting ready for school and stuff. And unfortunately, the news is reporting like this Cotton Weary interview that he's done. Cotton Weary, if you don't know, is the person that Sydney accused of murdering her mom in the first movie. So he went to jail for a year and then he was exonerated after the true killers were revealed. He has a lot of baggage. I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But Gail keeps feeding into this baggage. Like, Gail doesn't make things any better.
No, and we'll get to that soon because Gail. But
and then they start talking about this sorority party. This sorority is real hard up for Sydney to join. I don't know why. She is disinterested. That's true, but like she is disinterested in the whole thing. And I love the quote she says, you know me in organized religion. And Hallie goes, well, it's a sorority. And Sydney goes, even worse. Like, she just has no time for any of the bullshit. She just wants to get her education on and she wants to leave. That's her whole goal.
Yeah, these girls it's not even like they're really bringing on the whole idea of sisterhood, and they're pretty vapid, the people that represent the sorority. But I do want to say that Hallie, I think I was really excited to have, obviously a better representation or representation of a Black female in the movie. The problem is, now that I look back at it, is that Haley falls into the Black best friend trope, where she has very few characteristics of her own, and she is very much there to service Sydney. And so I had to take a step back and think about it. If I took that aspect out and watched her and how she engaged with Sydney and her interactions in their relationship, and I think I would be very as giving and caretaker-ish to my best friend, knowing how much trauma she had been in Sydney's position. But it didn't feel reciprocal. It didn't feel like Sydney really cared, like didn't care as much about Haley in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't feel like they had that bond at all.
In a future scene, that's kind of made more apparent. So they're in a dorm, which, like, it's a nice fucking dorm. Like, it's almost like an apartment building rather than a dorm.
Yeah.
I don't know. So they walk out of their door, and this girl, Phoebe runs up to them. She's like,
and if you
running through the hall.
You don't know what we mean Phoebe from Friends.
And then she, like, dramatically, I don't know where this girl got her acting lessons from, dramatically puts her hand on her heart and is like, did you see the news? And so I think at first they think it's just like the Cotton Weary interview, but really it's the news reporting on Maureen and Phil's deaths.
I thought for sure, I thought she had, like, I don't remember her dramatically running. All I remember is her just saying, I thought she did a nice job of softly saying, hey, you guys should turn on the TV. Like, that's what I remember. And so
she said, check out the news.
Okay, yeah. Like, maybe her physical acting was very over the top, but you know what? She said, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do with this one line. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. They gonna notice me.
Anyway, so they turn the news back on, see that 2 people were murdered at the premiere of Stab, and Sydney's immediately like, where's Randy?
Right. And the way that she says this to Haley is as if she was talking to her personal assistant. And why does Haley know where Randy is?
I don't know. I feel like it could go either way. I felt like there was like a hint of that, but I think also like just talking out loud, like, yeah, shit's gone down. He is my safe person. Like, we've been through this trauma before. I need to find him.
I also think probably before, and I'm making up a backstory, that Sydney and Haley have been roommates since freshman year. They're best friends. And because of her trauma, it's actually affected Haley wanting to be a psych major. So she loves Sydney, but she also looks at her as like a pet project.
Yeah.
And I think they probably even have protocols in place because this situation happened and she has so many crazy psycho super fans because of the movie and stuff. So maybe they just know where everybody's schedule, they kind of synced up because of, hey, we know it's going to be a little cray-cray the next few days. It's probably even why her and Randy went to the same college.
Exactly. And so she walks out of her dorm apartment building, and there's already press everywhere trying to get a comment. And she kind of just walks by him. Like, she's very good at just ignoring the press. She just does not give them the time of the day. She doesn't even like use any of her energy on them, doesn't give them a side eye or a dirty look, just keeps walking, like, whatever. Randy's in film. I don't know if it's a film theory. I'm assuming it's a film theory class because they're kind of talking about, shocker, sequels of movies. And so they're going around and debating and things like that. And at this point I wrote, oh, I forgot Joshua Jackson was from this movie.
So I said to myself, Y2K Danielle was very excited Joshua Jackson was in this movie, even if it was for that brief cameo, essentially. And I always get it mixed up because both him and Rebecca Gayheart are in this movie, but they're also an urban legend.
So I was like, wait.
What's happening?
Wait, what movie is this?
So they're obviously debating about sequels, and Randy, it's funny because in the first one he tries to, like, his whole life is movies. He works at a video store. It seems like even his quote unquote friends kind of bully him or like talk down to him and stuff. So he's kind of created this world for himself where like he equates every life event to a movie.
Yeah, it's his coping mechanism.
Yeah. And in this movie, he does a complete 180, which is hilarious because there's literally now a movie about his life. And he says, life is life. Where is it? Life is life. It doesn't imitate anything. I'm like, you literally know that to not be the case. Your likeness is on the big screen as we speak.
Yeah.
So it's like he's done a 180 and completely rejected his previous coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And trying to find parallels in movies that reflect events that are happening in his life. And now he's just like, nope, that doesn't happen, whatever. And then he goes on to say, by definition alone, sequels suck. And so then there's this debate back and forth. And we're also introduced to Mickey, played by Timothy Olyphant. I love Timothy Olyphant.
And he has like that salt and pepper hair. Jesus.
That's a TikTok. And so they're all going around and around and bringing up different genre or different movies and things like that. Anyway, so after class, they're kind of like, what would you like to see different in a sequel if they're all just like the same and follow the same formula? And Randy's like, I'd let the geek get the girl. And I'm like, oh, he still loves Sydney. Carrying that torch.
And she don't even care.
No. Now we are formally introduced to Derek, played by Jerry O'Connell, in all of his late 90s preppy glory. He's got the collared shirt and like the Greek letters, and he's pre-med in the khakis, and he's
dreamy,
adorable.
He's dreamy. And okay, I forgot to ask you this. When Y2K Jackie, when she was watching this movie, who did she think the killer was?
I think I don't 100% remember. And like they do the red herrings all throughout all of the Scream movies. But I feel like I thought it was just going to be either like Stu wasn't really dead, because I mean the TV fell on his head, but like in horror, like
anything can happen.
And my love for Matthew Lillard, like I was really hoping, I was trying to manifest that to be the case.
But he was in the movie.
Yeah, I learned that he's in a background scene in one of the like party scenes or something.
Yeah, I got in an argument with someone on Instagram who was like, no, he wasn't. I said, read the credits, bitch.
Yes, he had a very small appearance in the sorority party scene after he visited the set.
Yeah, so he's in the background. You don't really see him completely, but he's there.
And he's not playing Stu. So, I mean, in my heart of hearts, I was manifesting that Matthew Lillard would be the killer and he just wasn't really dead. Yeah. But I think other than that, I feel like I probably just thought it was going to be some random characters, which, I mean, wasn't 100% wrong.
No, not at all. I was hoping it was Haley.
Which it was in the original script.
Yes, so I was kind of right.
Yeah. So now Gail shows up in her chunky red highlight glory.
Yes.
Although I do really, really like this haircut on her.
Yeah.
It frames her face well. The really dark hair and red chunky highlights really make her eyes pop. I thought she looked really, really beautiful in this movie.
Yeah, 1 and 2 solid. It's 3.
The
bangs.
Them bangs.
Yeah.
I love that she has a sense of humor about the bangs and like posts on Instagram about the bangs.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, Google Scream 3 Courteney Cox and you'll see it looked like she let a child cut her hair, like a 2-year-old.
Yeah. And it's about 5 hairs on her head that are super, super short on her forehead.
Wow. It's almost like she went to Supercuts.
I get my hair cut at Supercuts and it doesn't look like that.
Oh, really? I'm so sorry, Jackie. I was, you know what? I was being prejudiced. I was just thinking that a lot of white people say that Supercuts is a bad place to go. So I was just repeating what I heard. I don't know nothing about that life. I apologize.
I have never had a bad experience with Supercuts, but my hair is also very, very easy to cut. And I get the same haircut all the time, like every single time. Anyway.
I digress.
I enjoy Supercuts. If they want to give us affiliate, not mad at it. So yes, Gail shows up, and then we are also introduced to Aunt Jackie, Laurie Metcalf. If you never watched Roseanne, as this kind of mousy reporter,
but she always knows shit. Like, why were people looking at her side-eyed?
She's always the first on the scene.
Always.
And she always has the inside scoop. And I because Gail, she kind of like fangirls with Gail a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Gail does not give her the time of day. And then there's a later scene where like Gail shows up, Aunt Jackie's already there. And she's just like, oh, I heard this, and this. And like turns and walks. I was like, ooh, that was good. Like, you scooped Gail Weathers, which is not easy to do.
You scooped her because you fucking did it.
Gail didn't know that, though. She kind of put Gail in her face like, bitch.
That's the best way. If you want to be a news reporter and you want to always have the hot scoop, do the killings yourself.
Do the crime and then show up to report on the crime. We don't condone that in any form.
No, I don't want to be on trial talking about the podcast told me to do that shit.
Which is the whole moral to this movie, which
Yes.
we'll get to later. And so they're holding a press conference about the movie theater killings. Timothy Olyphant. Fuck, I wrote this in my notes and didn't even put it together until right now, Danielle.
What is happening?
Timothy Olyphant is standing there recording the whole thing with his handy cam, and then later on when Dewey and Gail are like watching the videos, and then it's like not their footage but the same event, it was fucking Mickey the whole time. Like, bitch, please, Jackie, your brain is broken, do better. So Randy is pissed that Gail is there and like trying to talk to Sydney, and Sydney kind of was like, be kind, she saved our lives. Like,
yeah,
legit,
much nicer.
Yeah. And like, she can still be kind of like an asshole, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, Gail came in clutch for us, and we have to give credit where credit is due. Randy replies, she got calf implants. What the fuck that have to do with anything, Randy?
I think they threw in a lot of one-liners that were mirroring some of the tabloid fodder
rumors
that was plagued by the Friends cast, especially, Courteney Cox, mainly because at that time someone had taken, and I remember this, someone had taken her face and put it on someone else's naked body and was like shopping around that there was naked pictures of her. So that, yeah.
They mentioned that later in the movie too.
Oh, they
and
do.
Her response to that is glorious. We'll get to that. So now the Delta Landas show up to try and recruit Sid in the most vapid way possible. Just like, come be our
Portia, baby girl, this is my PSA. I know it was the 90s. We weren't even supposed to have eyebrows. So that's one. Two, the hair wasn't matching the eyebrows. Why is your hair pitch platinum blonde and your eyebrows are as brown as dirt? Don't make no sense. It did not look good.
It was not a good look.
I can't blame her completely because the 90s was atrocious for makeup and hair and everything. You were lucky if you got out looking pretty decent.
Dewey also shows up at this point. And so Sydney's like, what are you doing here? And he has obvious physical
he's a limp.
disabilities because of his stab wound to his spine in the first movie. So he has an arm that is kind of like, it doesn't function fully, and he kind of holds it closer to his body. And then he has the limp. So right away, you can see out of everyone, obviously there's like the emotional trauma of the event, but Dewey has the most physical trauma of the events of the first movie. But he shows up and he's like, I'm here to protect you, Sid. Now I was on the first flight out when I heard, like, and at this point she's still kind of like, I think it's a coincidence. I think it's just like someone,
right?
Like, no one's after me. It was just like someone was doing a copycat killing because the movie was coming out type thing.
I just thought this would have been a nice moment if he had talked about his sister a little bit, or
Tatum's never mentioned, which is
again.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, that's her best friend. Like, that's what ties them together. I mean, yes, they've gone through this thing, but I could see him wanting to be a surrogate older brother because his sister is gone and she loved Sydney. Well,
yeah,
she wasn't the best friend, but she loved Sydney.
Even if it was just like a simple, like, I really miss her. I miss her too. Like, even something like that where you just acknowledge like they're still coping with that grieving process.
Right. Or just like, I'm here, you're my only little sister left, or something like that. You know what I mean?
So they're catching up, and Gale shows back up now with Cotton Weary, and he's just like, hey Sid, how's it going?
His
hey, love, we gonna do this? He was all over the place.
And it's just so funny to know that he ends up being such a good actor and so famous later on. But
I'm like, oh, Liev Schreiber. The beginning was a rough patch for you.
So I have weird feelings because I get a little annoyed with Sydney when it comes to Cotton. Like, she still acts like
he did something wrong.
Right. And that
I mean, technically, like, in her mind, you slept with my mom. Like, you had an affair with my mom, which, like, she needs to go see something about that and like process that, because like, not only his fault, and like your mom's decisions you can't like take out on other people.
Right. Which is what she totally did when she accused him and then continued. So it's almost like it was very Karen-esque. I felt like, you're out, be happy you're out.
I said, cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That annoyed me.
Yeah. And like, although he does do this weird
aggressive thing. Yeah.
Well, and not even that. It's just like he suddenly becomes so fame hungry that he's willing to do anything to get his 15 minutes. He keeps just talking about like, I want my 15 minutes.
I don't even think it's fame. I think he's tried to go out into the world and people are still looking at him like he killed somebody. And the only person that could really set this straight or build, I guess, his reputation back is Sydney. So Gale writing this story about him not, about being innocent, but the fact that everyone in the line, like Sydney's in the limelight and they look at her as a victim. And the fact that she has not said, this man didn't kill it's just a perception, because you have to think for years he was considered the killer of this woman.
Well, and I think it's just, he could have approached it better.
He could have done better. Yeah, I 100% agree that the way that he handled it was horrible. And this is not me gassing up another like bad person in these movies, but I do feel like that whole, if we talk about Sydney needing mental health care, he definitely needs it. He was accused, he had a one night stand, or he was having an affair and ended up going to jail for years. And then when you finally, and nobody was listening to him, and then when you finally get out, everyone's still treating you like a leper for something you didn't do. And there's just like all this frustration you have, and you don't know how to let it out. And he's traumatized, I think, as well, but he just needed to handle it better. I think his frustrations, he's just about to lose it. That's also a great way. That could have been why, like, him being a killer would have made sense, because he would have had like a vendetta against Sydney at this point. So it's that red herring mixed with his trauma, I think, that causes those weird scenes.
Yeah, I agree. Gale and Cotton kind of Cotton unknowingly ambushes Sydney.
Yeah, he has no idea what's going on.
He just thinks like she agreed to it, and like Gale lied to him, obviously, to get him in the same place as Sydney. And Sydney's like, I'm not doing this. Like, Sydney's trying to move past her trauma without recognizing that like she has to right some wrongs to fully move past, like, complete this event,
right,
and move past it. And so she's just like, I'm not doing anything fucking, and she does have that aloofness of like, I don't owe you anything, even though you put him in jail for a year. And so Gale's like, come on, Sydney, blah blah blah, trying to convince her in the very Gale Weathers-esque way she does. And Sydney just turned around and backhands her, which, like, not mad at it.
Like a pimp who was asking for his fucking money. I was surprised there wasn't a splash of baby powder after that slap.
And so this is when Cotton kind of realizes, like, you didn't tell Sydney, like, and he's kind of trying to apologize, like, I'm sorry, like, he wants to do the interview, but he has no ill will towards Sydney. He's just trying to figure out his life. Yeah. And so Cotton kind of gets into it with Gale a little bit, and Gale's like, I'm not here to be loved. And like,
it's full Capricorn energy, I'm telling you. 100% focus on the fucking work and to get shit done. Yep.
And so I can't remember if it's in this scene or the next scene. Gale shows back up, and Sydney's like, just leave me the fuck alone. Like, you wrote your book, you have your movie, just leave me alone. I don't care to be around you. I don't care to talk to you. Just go the fuck away. Gale doesn't take no for an answer. No means no, Gale. And then I guess Sydney exits the scene, and so it's just Dewey and Gale now. And Gale's like complaining that Sydney slapped her, and Dewey's like, I don't condone violence, but you deserved it. Yeah. Like, quit being a bitch. And so then she's like, I'm really sorry, and kind of like apologizing to Dewey, and Dewey's just like not buying into the bullshit. He's like, he has the pages and the excerpts memorized of where she makes him seem like this bumbling deputy, which, I mean, not wrong, Gale Weathers, but I mean, Dewey did help in the end. It wasn't like he completely fumbled through the whole thing.
But he fumbled 90% of it, though.
He did. 90%. He fumbled into the helping. But he's hurt because like they had a relationship, and then she goes and writes this book and kind of exploits him, and really seemingly without any like remorse or anything like that, or talking to him beforehand. And she's kind of like, well, I embellish some, and he's just like, that doesn't. And I think it's also because like they were, I'm assuming, like national news, like his name was everywhere. So when Gale's book comes out, even if she changed the names, you still know who you're talking about.
Yep.
So now is the sorority party. Sydney did not want to go, but
I'm confused by this party. And let me tell you why, and maybe you can clarify. So those two nitwits played by Rebecca Gayheart and
Portia de Rossi,
those two are at this house, and they're co-sponsoring the party, I guess, with another frat. But then we get
another sorority, which doesn't make sense because typically sororities compete against one another. So in my mind, it was always a frat, but I'm pretty sure they said another sorority. I could be wrong though.
But then we go to this, we also get scenes at a sorority house with Cece. And I'm confused, is that their sorority house? Because she does talk about like all the girls being at a party, but she's the designated driver. Yeah, designated driver, non-drunk friend. So I was confused because at the end of those scenes, those two girls run in and say, oh my God, let's go. There's something going on at the ex house. Like they say the sorority house. So I'm like, is that not your house? I'm confused. Are they sorority sisters or is it a totally different sorority? And maybe that's the sorority you were saying that they partner with, because I'm confused.
I think it's the sorority that they partner with. So all of Sarah Michelle Gellar's, Cece's sorority sisters are at the other sorority. And I don't know if I wrote the Portia de Rossi, Rebecca Gayheart sorority name down, but the one that Sarah Michelle Gellar is pledged to is Omega Beta Zeta, because they answer the phone like a fucking company. Like, Omega Beta Zeta, how can I help you? It's weird. But yes, you are correct. There's a party being held at one sorority house. I'm assuming could be the frat house, and Sarah Michelle Gellar stayed at the sorority, but I think it's two sororities. And because she is the sober sister, which if the party is across the street, why you need a sober sister?
Some bitches can't make it across the street, Jackie, and we're not judging. We're not judging.
So Cece is a designated Dave of this situation.
Yes. And if you know, for some girls, the girls that know,
you know,
and the girls that don't, they don't. Yeah, we're not going to explain that reference.
No.
You either get it or you don't.
We'll get to it when we get to it. It's like we're keeping like Pentagon secrets. Really, it's just cheesy 90s teen movies. So she's on the phone with her friend, just chilling, watching TV. The voice on the other end of the line that she's talking to is Selma Blair, who she co-stars with in Cruel Intentions a few years later. So that's
and they're really good friends in real life now.
Yes. Yeah. And also to know, Alicia Silverstone was actually offered this role and turned it down. So SMG took it instead. So she's talking to Selma Blair on the phone. I'm just going to say, she's chilling with her homies on the phone and she gets call waiting. So she's like, hold on, let me answer the other line. Omega Beta Zeta. And it's Ghostface voice. And so he's like, do you want to die?
She's like, Ted, stop it.
Yeah.
And she's like, hold on. And she tells her friend, yeah, it's Ted. He's wasted. I'll call you back. And then it's not fucking Ted. Surprise, surprise. How do you don't know your boyfriends?
So then like it gets more involved in like, I'm going to gut you, blah, blah, blah. Typical fare for Ghostface. And so then she's legit what any sane person would do. You get scared. Like this person on the line that you thought was your boyfriend quickly realizes not, and they're like threatening to kill you. And so she's like, she hangs up, she calls Selma Blair back, and she's like, I don't think I'm alone in the house. And then for some reason, the phone starts getting staticky out of nowhere. And like she is moving through the house, but you would think like it would at least work in the house. Yeah. I could see like if she gets outside and is still on.
Which she does go outside.
Well, okay, hold on. I just want to take a step back. For our younger listeners, this is a cordless house phone. And so if you get too far away from the receiver, they're static.
Yeah.
So she is on a landline. It just happens to be a cordless phone. And so they're static on the line. So she's trying to like, at one point she's calling 911 or campus security. I don't know why you're not just calling 911 at that point.
Well, her friend says, don't get scared. She was the only one with some rational thought. She's like, call campus security. So that's why she was trying to call campus security.
And at first I was like, oh, but Buffy doing some damage. Obviously he pops out of a closet, starts chasing her. So she's fighting back. She throws a potted plant at him and stuff. And then she makes the fatal mistake. Bitch runs upstairs. Why? But why though?
This entire scene is the entire scene in Scary Movie on the staircase. When she like throws the bike.
Yes.
It is literally almost frame for frame the same thing. And I, again, just like Helen Shivers, I could not be down with believing that someone was not going to get their ass whooped messing with Buffy Summers.
And in the end, she gets up to an upstairs bathroom upstairs bedroom, and it has a balcony, and like they boot her through the glass door to the balcony. So she's outside on the balcony. They stab her, and then they throw her off the balcony
like a rag doll. Like a rag doll.
It was, they really turned up the dial on the murders in this.
Yeah. And I can't now, mind you, I've seen this scene a bunch of times when they're throwing her off like a rag doll. I am like, oh, there's a pool, right? And this bitch falls straight to the cement. And I was like, oh, there's no pool.
It's that like manifesting that she'll be all right.
It was just like, maybe there's a pool.
No pool.
No.
Straight up, like, looked like she was in the street.
Yeah, it was bad. Like one of her legs was jointed back all the way. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Her death was quick, I have to say. At least she didn't get stabbed like a million times, but yeah.
And then it's back at the other sorority house, and they're trying real hard to recruit Sydney. Like they're laying it on thick and like, oh, you're just the best. I love you so much. Oh, I'm like, oh God, I want to vomit.
And this, okay, so as I'm watching this and knowing that the best friend was supposed to be the killer, it's all coming together, because even like I wanted to join the sorority, but anybody cares about is your tired ass, and I'm doing all the work and they treat me like shit because they want you, or the only reason they're even interested in me is because they want you. Like I could see that playing out in the final scene of her saying, this is why I killed everybody. But
then there's a line spoken by one of the two airheads, and it's something is up at Omega Beta Zeta with a huge smile on their face the entire time, and they're like, police are everywhere. I'm like, why are you smiling? Like what y'all are the killers, straight up.
Now that would have been a twist, because
that would have been awesome.
It would have. Okay, so of my hierarchy of who really would have been a better killer, I'm still waiting for a Scream movie where Sydney fucking finally snaps and she's the one killing everyone, because that would be fucking amazing. Yeah. Secondly, those two idiots would have been great because they were always around.
They always showed up.
Yeah, they were always there, but they were also stupid. So you kind of just like push them to the side, and that would have been perfect. But I mean, I don't know if this was done before or after Urban Legend, because Rebecca Gayheart had already been a crazy psycho surprise killer. I believe
Urban Legend was 98.
Oh, okay. So yeah, well.
And like, it could have just been that really like shallow, you wouldn't join our sorority. So bitch gotta die. And that would have explained Maureen in the beginning. Yeah. Like anyone who like decline their invitations to join the sorority.
Yeah,
let's rewrite Scream 2 with them as the killers.
Yes, I'm
Kevin
down.
Williamson, like, I'm down. You need a woman number one on the script writing team, and you need a person of color if you're going to do it right. So hit us up.
I'm gonna correct that. You need a Black person if you're writing for Black people, and other people for the other things.
I just
How
feel
do I
like
point to you?
authenticity.
Yep. So Aunt Jackie shows up and she's like trying to get the scoop.
Bitch, you
Not the
did
scoop.
it.
You know what's going on, Aunt Jackie. You knew the whole time. And this was the scene where she's like rattling off all the details, and Gail has just shown up, and then she kind of like whirls away and leaves. And Dewey shows up. He goes, "You better hurry, Gail. You might get scooped."
It just came to my mind that pretty much all of the Scream movies are Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. 100, like down to the unmasking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those pesky kids.
Now pesky
As adults who play teenagers who are now grown as adults.
We forgot to mention earlier, when Gail first shows up, she has a new cameraman, because if you haven't seen the first movie, Kenny the cameraman gets his throat slit and then like falls down the van.
Yes.
So this new cameraman, Joel, shows up. He's kind of like, "I'm ready. Let's go. And then quickly is like, "Perhaps I should have read your book before accepting this job."
Dwayne Martin does a great job with what very little he does get.
Yes.
But he does a lot with it. And he is the audience, essentially, the Black audience especially, who's speaking to, this shit is crazy and we should all be leaving. Why are we staying? And Gail Weathers, the Capricorn that she is very focused on work and needs to get this shit done. Any Capricorns who are listening to this episode, I apologize. I'm not trying to slander your zodiac sign, but you know it's true.
You know why. And it's at this point where Joel's like, "I ain't cut out for this shit. Like, too many murders be happening. I'm gonna see myself out."
Yeah, at some point, like, so when he first joins on, she's just like she was to Kenny, and the other camera guy that she had as well. But she's just very dismissive of his
concerns.
Yeah.
Very valid concerns.
Yeah. She's dismissive. Then she is,
she gaslights him.
And then she tries to be like very sweet. She takes a lot of different manipulation tactics to get him to stay.
And this was a point where he's like, "Nah, I'm good."
He goes to get donuts and then comes back and someone's dead. And he's like, the best thing for me is to get away from this. And I think it's probably the smartest decision I've ever seen in a scary movie ever. But we also, on the flip side, we don't get to see him outwit the killers or anything like that. He does.
He was like that Homer Simpson gif where he just like backs into the hedges, like, "I'm gonna see myself out."
And the SpongeBob one when he's like, "I'm gonna head out."
So in this scene, Joel's like, "I'm not cut out for this shit." And then we cut to Sydney and Derek sitting on the porch of the other sorority house. And so Derek's like, "I'm going to take you home. Why don't you just go get your jacket?" Which, not the smartest decision, but he's still being very supportive and like, "Let's go home and stuff."
But she should know at this point, don't go anywhere alone anymore. Like, I would have so many attachment issues. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Well, and I think still at this point, she's thinking like, it's a copycat. It's not for me. It's just someone that's like uber fan of the movie and wants fame type thing. So she's still not like, because it's no one directly aligned with her, she's kind of like, these are isolated incidents.
But she should have learned from the first movie. They had killed a bunch of other people before they got to her.
I don't know.
It's very similar.
It's the exact same thing. Not very similar. The exact same thing.
Yeah, that.
By very similar, you mean
exactly the same.
So she goes and gets her jacket. Phone rings at a sorority house in which you don't live and don't belong to. And you can't just let it ring. You have to answer it. That's why you answer. Do we not learn from Tatum's house in the previous movie? Like, just
Sydney does some non-Sydney things in this movie. I will say that we fell in love with her in the first movie is that she was just very smart about how she did things and took charge and was not like a damsel in distress. But she does some real stupid shit in this movie.
Like in the first movie, she was literally like somehow through DOS calling into 911.
You'll never forget that.
Never. Like, who does that? Only Sydney Prescott. So she goes in, obviously answers the phone. It's Ghostface. And then he pops out of the closet. So now she's like running from him. Derek hears and runs inside to help. She gets out and then Dewey shows up. And so Dewey goes inside to kind of look around.
She gets out and then he runs back inside. Let's preface that because that was weird. He doesn't run in to get her. He runs in to catch the person after she is out, which I think very heroic, but not necessary and not smart.
Yeah. And then Dewey runs in shortly thereafter.
And does Dewey have jurisdiction? And does Dewey have a gun? Did you see him with a gun at all in this movie? Like, what you going to fight with your hopes and dreams and your limp? What are we doing? I'm sorry. This is not smart detective work or human work at all. Just, I don't know. Math is not math in here.
Moving on, Dewey goes in unarmed to go after the killer, much like Derek. But Derek, at least, it seems to be very athletic.
Yes. And I'm wondering if in this scene, Aunt Jackie was the one wearing the mask and stuff. Or was it always, I don't know if she was actually the killing. I think it was always Crazy Face, Mickey. I think Mickey was always the one doing the killing because he liked it, obviously. He said she was his finance, like she was paying him. So I don't know if she was getting in on the action. I don't think there was two like there were in the first one, essentially killing people.
Okay, let's think this through. It was definitely Mickey in the first scene. And then who gets killed next? Cece. It had to have been Mickey then because
she couldn't have lifted.
No, she couldn't have thrown Cece over. And then it would have had to have been Mickey because Debbie Salt, the reporter, Aunt Jackie, was over at the other house doing the press stuff, but she does leave, so potentially she could have attacked Sydney, but they were waiting in a closet.
Yeah.
But how did Mickey get from Cece sorority to
there? I mean, we don't know how much time has gone by, it's true. Think about how long it takes for the ambulance to get there, because that's what triggered everybody to realize that they were over there. He had enough time to
sneak in. And especially if he's a student, he could have probably just walked in and no one would have noticed, and then he puts on the costume after he gets in the closet.
Yep.
That makes sense.
I think
so far your theory tracks. We'll continue analyzing as we go through. So Dewey says, okay, the house is clear. How he knows, because he walked through like 2 rooms and then he was like, we're good, they're gone. And Derek now has this slice across his forearm, which later on in the ER, they're like, you're really lucky you didn't sever any major veins or anything.
And Dewey's like, that's suspicious. Like,
I did write prior to the ER scene, I wrote the 2 sorority girls show up and they're like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
But how I named them in my notes was Neutrogena and Porsche.
If you are not from the 90s, you didn't know that Rebecca Gayheart was the Neutrogena queen on our commercials. We were constantly seeing this bitch on our TVs splash her face with water in slow motion.
Much like Who the Fuck is Kathy from 13 Goes.
Yes. God. Done.
Anyway, okay. So we're in the hospital now. Derek's going to be fine. Didn't cut any major, which, I mean, I'm not in the medical field, but are there major veins that go across the top of your forearm? Aren't they all mostly underneath?
I don't know.
On the underside?
Maybe it was a deep cut.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so Sydney's kind of sitting in the waiting room, and Mickey shows up and he sits down. I'm like, I never got the vibe that y'all are friends. So why are you having this heart to heart at the ER type thing?
And also, there's a moment when he says to Sydney, like, yeah, why did he run back into the house? Bitch, wait a minute. Where were you? And how do you know this? Because we don't see him in that scene. And Sydney gets a look on her face as if it clicked for her, but then she says something else. Like, come on, man.
But they were handing it to you, Sydney.
On a goddamn platter.
And he has some really choice quotes. He says, the 90s is no time to be a hero, in reference to Derek running back into the house. Like, that don't make no goddamn sense.
I don't
and
know.
then this is when it cuts to Dewey talking to Derek, and he's like, it's awfully convenient. And Derek kind of shoots back at him, and he's like, you showed up right after the guy disappeared, so they just side-eyeing each other.
Like,
suspicious. What we gonna do now?
it's that P. Diddy me.
And so this is where the Gail kind of puts together. I think they're at the sheriff's department now.
They go to the sheriff's department, and then they're reading off all the names of all the deceased. Yes. Well, no, they say Cece's name stands for Casey.
Yes. And Gail's like, wait a minute, Maureen, that was Sydney's mom. Phil Stevens.
Yeah, Phil Stevens. So that's
Steve.
That's
Steve, Casey Becker's boyfriend. And then Cece is actually short for Casey, who Casey Becker, played by Chef's Kiss, Drew Barrymore in the first movie. So Gail kind of starts putting it together like, I don't think it's a copycat. I think it's someone that
she puts that shit together in record time, and these bumbling idiots at the police station don't know what the hell's going on.
So at this point, they assign a police detail for Sydney because they're taking it serious now. Like, these are people that are going to be with you at all times until we figure this shit out, because we want to protect you. They don't do a great job. And so at this point, Sydney's like, I think, to Derek, is like, I think you need to stay as far away from me as possible. Like, she doesn't know what to believe. Like, obviously, past trauma, the people she thought she could trust, very obviously could not trust. Yeah. And so she's just like, for his protection, so she doesn't wrongly accuse him, but also for her protection, because she doesn't know who she can trust. And Derek's kind of like, no. But she's like, I mean it, like, stay away from me. And
yeah, so she does this breakup scene. I guess that's what this is. And she tries it. I feel like she does this like twice in the movie, but then in the very next scene, they're in the cafeteria, and they're best friends again. No, I mean, they're around each other again.
Yeah, so in this scene, he's like, well, I hope this is out of concern with my well-being and not with trusting me. So he kind of calls her out on it. Like, yeah, you can trust me, but I mean, like, Billy also played her like that, and she chose poorly. So Dewey is there to help Sydney, like, escorts her away. Interviewers are now hounding Gail. And then Mickey kind of raises suspicion with Sydney about Randy. And so, like, Sydney's head is just all full of doubts and shit, which, fucking Randy, he wasn't, like, out of anyone to trust. Like, it feels like she trusts Dewey implicitly, no questions asked, not a doubt in her mind. So why are you doubting Randy in the same capacity?
She has a different relationship with Dewey. She's always been Dewey's like, if I can imagine her and Tatum been best friends forever, then Dewey's always been like her brother. I feel like Randy was friends with those other two. And yes, they've been through something similar, but it's not the same. It's more of a familial feel with Dewey.
Yeah.
I think she feels very closely to Randy, but she's has so much trauma. It's like really hard to trust because anything is possible, except apparently Dewey being the killer.
So the next scene is like you were talking about in the cafeteria. And I think at first Derek was there, but he was kind of like away from the group because he didn't want to listen to her, but was trying to respect her at the same time. But then he had to show his declaration of love so that she knew that she could trust him. And so he does this song and dance.
Yes, it's giving me 10 Things I Hate About You before 10 Things I Hate About You, because this came out before it. When Heath Ledger goes into song, it's the same thing, but in the cafeteria.
Yeah, I think this scene is very clever in the way that it's portrayed, because someone asks him a question or starts engaging him in conversation and he starts saying the lyrics, but he's just speaking them. He's not singing yet. And then like he starts ramping up. And then it's like full blown, I Think I Love You by the Partridge Family. David Cassidy. And it's very Jerry O'Connell. So it's very charming and adorable. And she starts smiling and laughing. And so he's kind of regained her trust. And then he gives her his Greek letters, which is on a chain. And so there's someone that says, oh, you're never supposed to do that. Like the penalty for that is death. His brothers are not going to be happy, blah, blah, blah. But it's also like what everyone does when they get a girlfriend is give their letters. There's just some sort of hazing involved for you giving away your letters. Anyway, and also this song is on the soundtrack, but it is a cover by Less Than Jake, and it is amazing, and it's one of my favorite covers. But I digress. But also, if you like ska and punk, check out Less Than Jake's cover of I Think I Love You by the Partridge Family.
I think you're just, so after this scene,
they're watching an interview for Access Hollywood, I think. And it's Tori Spelling talking about portraying Sidney Prescott, which is funny in the fact that in the first movie, Sidney says someone awful like Tori Spelling would
portray me in the movie.
Yeah. And then they got Tori Spelling, which I mean, I've always felt like Tori Spelling has a really good sense of humor about herself. So I love that she was down to play into that. Yeah.
And in the 90s, like put some respect on her name kind of situation. She was everywhere. Yeah.
And then they also say there's so many random Friends references in this movie, but they say Dewey was played by David Schwimmer,
which I could see
100%.
So at this point, Casey Becker in the Stab movie would have been played by Heather Graham. Then we have Tori Spelling playing Sidney. We have David Schwimmer playing Dewey. And then Randy says a random guy, nobody, is playing him. And then
Luke Wilson plays Billy. In the worst greasy ass Snape looking wig. And then he's just like head down all the time. And he talks like Christian Bale and Batman. And he's just like, told you, Sidney, that I didn't do it. But the dialogue is like exact.
Right? Come on. Who, if it was, Sidney is not divulging what was said. So it is weird. There are scenes in the fake movie that are identical to the real movie, but that's not even possible because
I think it's a little of Kevin Williamson. I'm just gonna copy and paste, and then a little of like, these movies are meant to be meta anyway, so why not we just go all the way with it type thing. So Randy and Dewey are now at Baskin Robbins having a bro date over ice cream.
I didn't know where they were. I thought they were in one of the student unions or cafeteria.
It may have been where, how it's like a food court and there's a bunch of different, but they're definitely eating Baskin Robbins, like the brand is shown, and they're just having a leisurely, which is funny because in the first one, Dewey eats ice cream too. So it's like now a thing. Yeah. But they're kind of discussing what's going on and stuff. And here are Randy's rules for a sequel. You ready?
I'm ready.
The body count is always bigger. Mm-hmm. The death scenes are much more elaborate. And he says more blood, more gore. Mm-hmm. And he said, and the third rule of a sequel and gets cut off. So we never find out his third rule of a sequel. And I think it's because of what happens in a later scene. Mm. They also go through potential suspects. And this is the second time they're like, I don't know who brings it up first, but essentially it's like, well, if I'm a suspect, then you're a suspect.
Dewey does.
Okay. So
because he tries to say that he thinks Mickey is a suspect. And then he said, but if Mickey's a suspect, then I'm a suspect. So moving on. And then Dewey goes, well, let's go back because
you could be a suspect.
You could be a suspect. And then he goes, well, if I'm a suspect, then you could be a suspect. And then Dewey goes, okay, yeah, we can move on. I love that scene.
As long as I know that you know that I know. And they kind of conclude that, well, if Gail's not a killer, then she's a target. So we need to go find Gail so that we're with her and we shouldn't let
protect her with no gun and our ice cream spoons.
And this is when we see Joel and he's like, I should have read your book because shit be wild.
Yeah, and I'm going to Dunkin'. Peace.
Yeah, I'm going to go get some donuts. I'll be back. And so the van is parked on the street and they're kind of like in the quad, like a grassy area. And they're kind of just having like a picnic and debriefing with Gail. And Joel also says, I want to report on the news. I don't want to be on the news.
Word. 100%.
And then finishes up his sentiment with brothers don't last long in these situations.
Yeah.
So Joel pieces out, goes to get donut. All of a sudden, we're in a theater with a Greek tragedy rehearsal going on, and Sydney wants to be a actress? ?
Okay, so I'm glad you brought this up because I was, said to myself, this don't make no sense. This career path makes no sense.
None.
When has Sydney shown anything wanting to do with being an actress?
Tatum.
Right. And so then, I mean, and yes, people can change, blah, blah, blah. But then her drama professor, coach, teacher, Gus. I don't know what
Gus is his name. And why are we on first name basis with the professor?
I'm a cool teacher. I'm a cool mom. That vibe. This girl has been terrorized, damn near killed. And he's like, yeah, I don't have an understudy. So you don't sound like you're really strong or brave or whatever he said to her. What did he say?
I tuned him out because I just couldn't even. But essentially, like, he gaslit her into performing, even though she said she wasn't comfortable performing, given the events that were going on.
I feel like I don't know. School should have been shut down.
Yeah, they shut the high school down. Like, why is the college not being shut down? And they do say that they're going to have lockdown starting at sundown or whatever. Yeah. Oh, he did say, he's like, you're a fighter, blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
so, like,
that's
essentially,
the word.
He kind of guilts her into it, but giving these backhanded compliments, but like,
and
she shouldn't have to do this.
A pep talk, but it's bad.
And this scene is all of these Greek figures in the drama masks are attacking her in these robes. Like, it's very, very parallel to her actual life. What happened to her the night before in the sorority house? And so she starts running around, and I don't know if she's imagining it or if it's actually happening.
I think it's real because at one point I saw someone running away and I don't think anyone else saw it. So it makes her feel like she's gone crazy. But I think that was 100% Mickey. He put the ghost face mask and I think that was real.
And it's just the mask with the like drama robes or like a brown monk
Yeah.
type robe. And so it's just the mask and like there's lightning effects going on. So the lights are flashing on and off.
Yeah.
And there's a thunder effect. So like she's on sensory overload anyway. Plus like the blocking for like this play that she's been rehearsing for. And then just now she's seeing Ghostface Killer every time the lights flash.
Right. But I
did it.
You did. You did it. But it's okay. We still love you.
And so she's just seeing him intermixed when the flashes happen. And so she panics. Like who wouldn't panic?
That I would have panicked if I wasn't being killed. That whole scene was weird. What's happening? Am I a sacrifice? So yeah, they stop the production and then I think her best friend is there.
So Derek shows up right after. And so it looks suspicious that he's there. And apparently not only does she have a police detail, she has her friends are kind of rotating out who is kind of being with her during the day. And it's supposed to be Mickey's turn. And he's like, oh, we swapped out, which makes sense in the end because Mickey had to attack her on stage. So, but it does raise her suspicions.
And then she at this point, she does have police detail with her. She has two guys protecting her. So they have decided now, I think now they've decided that they're going to take her to a safe house. They're going to go back to the dorm. See, this is what doesn't make any sense to me. I would have just taken her somewhere and had maybe the best friend or someone else go get her clothes. Like there's no need for her to stay there.
Yeah. Well, when Derek shows up, this is the second time she like breaks up with him and she's just like, no, like we need to be apart. Like I'm going to go somewhere safe. And he's like, I guess this is where I need to be understanding. So, okay. Like he's trying really hard.
He doesn't really say the way he says it's like, I guess pretty much, I guess I have no other choice. And I guess I'm supposed to be understanding, right? You could tell that he's a little aggravated, a little bit more. He's been completely solid this whole time, but this is the first time we really see him frustrated. And it's not even that much, but yeah.
Yeah. And then we cut to Gail, Randy, and Dewey in the quad, just talking. I guess Joel goes to get donuts a little later because in this scene, he's sitting there whittling a stick into a steak.
He's Buffy.
And I'm like, I mean, at least he's trying to protect himself in some form or fashion, even if it's like what he has on hand. I got a knife and I can make this stick sharp. Someone named Bob keeps calling Gail and he's real adamant about something. And this is where Bob brings up the fact that Gail has nude photos leaked. And Gail's like, that's not even me. That's my head on Jennifer Aniston's naked body. And I'm like, way to weave all your friends' castmates into this movie, Courtney. And I just love because like they're best friends in real life. So you know Jennifer was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Go ahead. This is where like after she gets off the phone with Bob, they're kind of just trying to figure out a game plan and no one really has a concrete idea of what to do and stuff. And this line, what do you want to do, bonehead? Said by Gail, to which Dewey replies, I don't know, phonehead. She's been talking on a cell phone. Oh, poor sweet Dewey. Maybe you deserve to be depicted in Gail's book the way you did.
Phonehead.
Oh, so now,
Kevin.
Not great. Not one of your finer moments, Kevin. So Gail's cell phone rings. It's Ghostface. They give the phone to Randy to stand and keep him like on the line while Gail and Dewey go around the quad. Because like in the conversation with Ghostface, they figure out like he can see them. And so they're going and like checking everyone's phones.
This plan was real stupid.
It was like, first off, they stayed together, which if you're in an open grassy area, like you can split up a little bit to check phones more quickly. But also Randy is just kind of like trying to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like,
well, he's
hey,
trying to keep
how's
them.
it going? Right, but like the way he approaches it is like, how's it going? How you doing? But blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then like Ghostface starts getting into like more aggressive, like, I'm gonna stab you, I'm gonna cut you, blah blah blah, you're gonna die. And so Randy starts like getting heated.
Yeah.
And so Randy's kind of starting to yell back. But as Randy's doing that, he starts ranting on the phone, and he's like, you're not even a real killer. Like Manson, Dahmer, OJ, those are real killers. I'm like, you bring OJ into this? Really? We're gonna bring OJ into this?
Yeah, that was the sly one.
And as he's talking, he's kind of backing up towards the van for some reason. And wouldn't you know, the door to the van slides open, snatches Randy, and closes. And this is why Randy couldn't get to his third roll of sequels, because he did not make it through the sequel.
Right. I feel like the third rule would have been expect anything, or anybody could die. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think his third role would have been?
Probably something like not everyone who survived the first movie survives the second movie, something like that. And so, and I mean, according to Kevin Williamson, like his death was actually a lot more violent, and so they had to cut it out, and you kind of just see like Ghostface stabbing. You don't see like the Randy's body in the shot. But when they open the van door, and I don't know if it's because you have a previous relationship with this character, so it carries more weight that he's dead.
Yeah.
But when they show his dead body, like that, out of every death in the Scream franchise thus far that we've watched, that one was like one that I was like, oh, like,
yeah, I
had a reaction.
I was sad. I liked the levity he brought to the films. I liked him being our guide. I think that's also why I feel like Sydney, we are attached to her because she's a final girl, but Randy we're attached to him because he is like he is narrating for us. He is telling us the rules. He is telling us what's going to happen. He's comedic relief, but he's sometimes the only sane person making any sense in these movies. So it does hit home, and really sad that we don't have him and Jamie Kennedy anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and so Wes Craven deliberately put together a more extreme version of Scream 2 altogether, featuring an extended scene of Randy's death, so that then when they watch the actual version, it would seem less gory. And despite this, the more violent cut was passed and given an R rating anyway. So he didn't even have to go through that extra effort. It was
what he did in the first movie. The first movie, he was struggling with the ratings. So he did something similar in the first movie. So he had a formula at this point. It was working.
Specific formula. Everybody dies but us.
And then
Gail and Dewey, unbeknownst to them that Randy has been cut, they're still like tackling people and grabbing their cell phones and stuff, but then they head back to the van. This is, I guess, during this scene is when Joel goes to get donuts. He's back with the donuts, and they notice blood dripping out of the van, so they open up the door, and Joel's like,
I'm out.
Man.
I'm out. I thought I could hang, but I can't hang. I'm going home.
And he also faints. Gail screams because like she legit has a relationship with Randy. And so she's obviously very traumatized by seeing him dead. And Joel just flat out, eyes roll back, he passes out. Now Sydney is at the library. Like, bitch, why are you even trying to do schoolwork right now?
Yeah,
like,
this doesn't make any sense.
This semester.
Yeah, I thought she had been taken away, but now she's back in school. She has her two guys following her.
I guess they hadn't decided to take her to the safe house yet. So she does have her detail.
I think they did take her to the safe house, but I think she is trying to just do class, and so they're just with her. And while she's at that computer, that's when her screen is taken over by someone trying to chat with her. Here's another random, someone's AOL chatting in the library. She talks to the guy next to her and she's like, what the hell's happening? And he's like, oh, someone in here is trying to talk to you, because she's like, I'm not signed on. Then you could see that it's like somebody messaging her that they want to kill her, and she's like, hey guys who are supposed to protect me, they're in here. And what do? They fucking pull her to the side and have her just stand there. So we're gonna leave you again, even though we know shit gets cray, and go look at every computer. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that's when Cotton comes in and has that weird scene with Sydney. It's just aggressive and odd.
Yeah, like he has crazy eyes. He's like, Diane Sawyer wants to do an interview. We're gonna get 10 grand each, blah blah blah. And Sydney's just like, no, dude, like, I'm not doing this. And I think he grabs her arm.
Yeah.
which not okay. And then he does that thing. She's up against like a wall, her back to the wall, and he does that thing where he like puts his hands on either side of her.
Yeah.
Essentially like blocks her in, like, while yelling in her face.
And Neve Campbell does a really good job in her facial expressions and showing her actually feeling triggered, feeling unsafe, watching every movement, just a way that her acting is in this scene. Jennifer Love Hewitt could never. But in this scene, it's just so poignant, and you really feel, I think even just as a woman, it felt very real to me of very similar situations in life where it's two people having a ton of communication non-verbally with physical action, and the guy is not picking up on how unsafe, and like, he's not picking up on any of these cues. He is having a whole other situation happen and not realizing.
Yeah. His experience is completely different than hers,
right?
Because he's the one dominating, where she's in the submissive position. And then even this is also like reinforced because he's obviously brought down to the police station, and he's like, what, we were just having a heated argument. It's like, no, bitch, you trapped her. Like,
he so unaware of
So this is also when Sydney finds out about Randy, and so she's having survivor's guilt. Like, it shouldn't have been Randy, it should have been me. Just trying to process all this stuff. And I think this is when they decided to take her to a safe house, because now Randy has been killed, and so it's getting closer and closer to Sydney.
They're going to take her back. I really think they went the night before, but I think they were just following her throughout her regular day.
It says they're going to take Sydney somewhere safe. I wrote it down when they decided that.
Oh, well, when she told the guy the night before, didn't she say she was going to go somewhere safe? Does she not? I thought they told her that she was going to get clothes. Maybe it's maybe it's that night. I don't know. But I think I got confused because I thought the guy, Derek, she had told him she was going to go somewhere safe. So I got confused. But that's when they get in the cop car, right?
Yes. There is a scene with Gail where Aunt Jackie shows up again, and Gail at this point is just like, give it a rest. Like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, just leave me the fuck alone. And so Aunt Jackie's like,
your throat dry, bitch. Get out of here.
Joel also says, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya, and like deuces out.
Yeah, that's not odd. And then we get to this scene I have a lot of gripes with, where the two police officers, and when I say police officers or detectives, they've had training, they should know how to fight, they should know their surroundings. Just putting that out there. They
didn't even lock their doors. No, I don't think.
They have Sydney and Haley in the back seat, and they're headed out, and here comes Ghostface, slams right into the window, and he just goes ham on this person. And there are two of them, and they have guns and nothing.
So like they're at a stoplight. Ghostface busts the window out. slits the cop that's driving the car's throat. The other cop's like, "Woo, what's going on?" Completely useless. Finally pulls out his gun, but it's too fucking late. Ghostface is literally driving the car now.
And runs him down. Mows him down.
Yeah, the second cop got out of the car and then was trying to shoot through the windshield, and instead Ghostface just hits him with his car. So now the cop's just leisurely like waving his gun while on top of the hood of the car that's still driving down the road, and there's like a construction area, and Ghostface just like plows through the construction area, hits this like container of pipes, and a pipe goes through the second cop's head.
Jesus.
It was very Final Destination.
Yes.
And so, but also Ghostface, because he wasn't seatbelted in or anything, he's knocked out. And so Sydney and Hallie are like, this is our only chance. They're trying to break out the windows, and Sydney notices that the pipe kind of pushed the cage that separates the front seat from the back seat a little bit. So she's able to kind of pull it and bend it down enough to squeeze out. But then the passenger door is blocked by like a wall. And so she has to climb over Ghostface to get out. And there's a moment where she's like, I want to see who this fucker is, goes to try and lift off his mask and accidentally honks the horn.
I would have tried my best to find a weapon to just make sure that bitch was really dead. Who cares who's under there first? I would have tried to kill him dead. I would have suffocated him. I would have choked him out, like something. While he's like, why are we climbing over him? I know it's a scary movie, so it's supposed to like, you're like, oh my God, is he gonna wake up? And so she gets through, and then there's all this construction material. She can't go and get something to break the glass to get her best friend out, the back window to get her out. No, she's telling this bitch she's got to climb through as well. So now we're scared. So Haley does get out, and they're running, they're going. And guess what? Guess what fucking Sydney does? The whitest white girl shit ever in a horror movie. No, that's not true. But it's a white girl horror movie trope.
I need to see go back. I need to see who he is. Well, first off, bitch, like it would have taken you about 5 seconds to whip that mask off to begin with while you were still there. And now that you're away, you're going to go back. And her friend, the voice of reason's like, no, bitch, let's keep going. And Sydney is like, no, I really need to go see. And her friend like stays where she is, like, I'm not going back to that car. You're crazy. The thing I don't get about this scene is that Sydney approaches the car. Obviously, Ghostface isn't in there anymore. But like their backs weren't turned for long enough for Ghostface to get out of the car and hide.
This is
because they turn around pretty quickly.
This is one of the magic things about both this movie and I Know What You Did Last Summer, where they apparently the killers have super speed. I don't know what that's about, but I do want to say that Haley said, Sydney, we need to get out of here. We need to run. And we're smart girls. Smart girls run.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go back. And you know, in this moment, I would, if you had done this shit, I would have grabbed, I wouldn't even fucking I would have grabbed you. I don't care if you're mad at me. We're fucking running.
Yeah.
We're running. I know I want this to be over, but I also want to survive it.
Yeah.
No. Or I'm grabbing a weapon. There was wood, there was metal, there's all sorts of stuff. And then
his gun.
Yeah. No.
His gun was still on the hood of the car. That's how Ghostface ended up with the gun.
I'm telling you, I would, like, after we got out of the car, gun, bop, bop in the head.
Double tap.
And then
we take the mask off.
So not only was this a stupid decision, but now here comes Ghost Killer, and he has now killed Haley.
Yep. He jumps out from like behind a pile of wood and stabs her as Sydney's like looking at the empty driver's seat.
At this point, I'm hella pissed at
Sydney. Waste of a character.
Yes.
So while all of this is going on, when Joel pieced out, he left all of his B footage, all of it, like his secondary footage that he took during the press conferences and stuff. And so Gail's like, oh, obviously Ghostface has been at every event. Like he's been watching us. Let's watch these videos and see if we can see anything. I guess they couldn't use the van because Randy's dead in the van. So I'm sure it's now like part of a crime investigation. They go into a random hall in a college building and are just trying to find open classrooms to find a VHS player. So they go into this hall, they find a VCR, they start kind of watching their footage. And was there another TV located somewhere else in the room?
I don't know. This scene was very confusing to me because it just was stupid and
so essentially what happens is like they're watching the footage and they're like trying to kind of see. And then I feel like there was another TV that turns on and it's footage of the same day, but from like a different angle. And so Gail's like, this isn't our footage. This is someone else's footage. This is the scene like that I mentioned earlier where I'm like, fucking Mickey and his handy cam. God damn it. And so they're like, they look up into the projection room and they see Ghostface. So Dewey runs up the stairs. Were they making out before this? Yes. So they have a moment. They're making out on the desk now while their footage is still playing. And then a TV flickers and it's different footage from a different angle of the same event. And they're like, this is not our footage. This is someone else. And then the TV flickers again and it's them in the room, like live. And so that's what causes them to look up into the projection room and they see Ghostface. So Dewey runs up. Gail stays at like down at the front of the classroom and Dewey flings open the room and he's like, no one there. And now Ghostface is behind Gail. So I think at this point, both of them had to have been doing stuff. Maybe Aunt Jackie was up in the projection room where Mickey was still doing like the physical stuff, but she was kind of helping misdirect.
Yeah.
So Dewey just takes it upon himself. Like he sees Ghostface is now attacking Gail and he just tumbles down the stairs on his own accord. So that's fun.
It's not on his own accord. He's trying to get there as fast as he can and he can't. He just physically can't anymore. And I think for a moment in panic, he forgets his limitations and he falls
on his own accord. So Dewey tumbles down the stairs. Gail runs into the hall. She's trying doors, trying to get away.
Yeah.
Finds another open door and it's a recording studio. So it's like the room separated by a wall with a big window in it and everything's soundproof. And so she gets into that room and then she goes into the other room and like none of the doors have locks on them. And so she's trying to hide. And the second room she goes into has all of this soundproofing. She knocks over a shelf to block the door. So she does smart girl shit as much as she possibly can in the situation. She's still not looking for a weapon though, which is odd.
Okay. So first she's hiding and then she's hiding from Ghostface. And then she sees like Dewey sees her and this is when he walks in and he's like, Gail.
Yeah, Gail.
No gun. And he is trying to get her attention from the glass that she can't hear him. And finally, when she does turn around and see him, here comes Ghostface and stabs him and multiple times. And so she just sees him like sliding down with blood and that she is done after this.
Yeah.
She's fucking mentally checked out. She does throw the thing like a shelf that prevents Ghostface from getting to her. And she's done. She's not fighting. The reason she's not looking for a weapon is because I think literally seeing Dewey potentially be dead is she's done. She loves this man. She doesn't want to say it, but she does. And so she just slowly slides down. And this is some great acting from her too. I mean, I know this movie isn't top tier completely, but there are moments because we have really good actors in this movie. Yes. And in that moment, I really felt how defeated she felt and she was just done.
And also by the time this movie came out, they were in a relationship. And
Yeah.
so that was probably almost like a method acting, because
Yeah.
that's the man she's actually
In
in
love
real
with.
life in love with.
Future baby daddy status.
So apparently there's a back door to the room she's in. So she gets out, she's back in the hall, she's running, and Cotton comes out and he's covered in blood, and she's like, get the fuck away from me. Like, no, like now she's convinced he's the killer. And he's like, no, I found Dewey and I was trying to help him, and that's why I have blood all over me.
Yeah,
But she's like not buying it. She gets out to a payphone, but Aunt Jackie's on it, and she snatches that thing, hangs up, is calling 911 like, Con Weary's the killer, blah blah blah. And Aunt Jackie is like, the audacity. Like, and now we're in the theater. There's Greek music playing, and we see, at some point during like this juxtaposition of Sydney and Hallie in the cop car and Gail and Dewey in the college, we see a cutaway scene of Derek. He's, I'm assuming, walking back to his dorm for curfew, and all of these people in robes kind of ambush him and like carry him away, and it's his hazing for giving away his letters.
It's
so
some real stupid shit.
So they tie him to like this sun prop
in his boxers,
and they're like force feeding him alcohol and just like spraying alcohol all over him. And all of a sudden there's like this sorority party in the theater to haze him for giving his Greek letters to Sydney. So that all was real weird. And now Sydney is back at the college and she hears Greek music from outside. So she goes into the theater, which is now completely empty. Like there is no sign. There's like nothing's wet, like from all of the alcohol, nothing. And she's kind of looking around, and she gets to the stage and the sun thing is lowered down, and it's now like Derek is passed out, mouth duct tape, Greek mask over him, and he's like tied with really thick ropes to this sun thing.
I just don't understand like how they felt, how they knew she was going to stumble in. I don't know why she's alone again after this whole situation. You know, did she your friend just died, your cop detail just died, you can't find Dewey, or
why aren't you at the police station?
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
So she kind of slaps Derek awake, and he's like, the killer is here. And we see Ghostface coming down from the back of the auditorium to the stage, and he unmasks himself and is like, hey guys, it's me, Mickey. I did it.
I did it, and I am gonna get away with it.
Fuck them pesky kids. Message.
Yeah.
So, but Mickey kind of starts fucking with her head, like, "Hey, Derek, we did it. We got Sydney here. Like that was the plan." And
you
like,
know, Derek's
I don't
like,
know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, I didn't do anything. And so it's putting those seeds of doubt in Sydney, and she's trying to untie him, and she stops because she's like, are you in on it? Are you not? She's trying to figure things out. And finally, Mickey's kind of like, fuck this shit. Bam, bam. And
yeah, that scene really affected me because the way Jerry O'Connell played it, like you just felt the life drain out of him. Like you just knew it's sad. And, you know, I really just feel like there hasn't been a boyfriend that I believe that has been believable in this whole franchise that I believe Sydney is in love with.
Mm-hmm.
Not one. No. Not one.
No.
She just, I don't believe it. I don't know what else to say. And because if she really, I feel like even with her trauma, she really had that connection, she would have untied him.
Yeah. And the other heartbreaking part is like after Mickey shoots him, she's like, I'm sorry. And he's just like, I wouldn't have hurt you. And then he dies. heartbreaking. And so then Mickey goes into his like tirade of why he did it. And so he says she should really deal with her trust issues. He was really a boy you could have taken home to mom if you had a mom. So he's like rubbing salt in the wound.
Yeah, his whole spiel is that he's doing it for the fame, he's doing it for the recognition, and he already has a plan that he's going to blame it on the movies as to why he did it and get off in his psychotic mind. And
the exact defense is the effects of cinema violence on society. And fuck if that doesn't resonate 1,000% now. And this was shortly before Columbine. Like this is right before that blame it on the media, blame it on movies, blame it on music really became a very real defense for people, typically young people, committing acts of murder. So that was like, when he said that, I was just like,
damn,
fuck, man.
And in this whole process, then we see Gale kind of stumble out through a door because he's like, I had a partner and I had to have financing. Like he's making a fucking movie the way he said that.
Yep.
And here comes Gale stumbling out. And Sydney, when she says it, it's like, Gale? And then it would quickly turn to, you motherfucker. Like it wasn't hard for her to believe.
Yeah.
But then she's like, no, it's not me. And then here comes Aunt Jackie. So I just feel like Sydney needs to work out her shit with Gale, because in that scene, it showed that I believe this cold-hearted bitch could do this to me.
Because at the beginning, she was like, Randy, be cool. Like, Gale saved our lives.
We're friends now.
Why would Gale save our lives and then a couple of years later turn around and like become a mass murderer? Like, doesn't. So, but shortly before this, it's like Sydney's still squaring off with Mickey and he's like ranting and she's like, because he mentions Billy and she's like, you're forgetting something about Billy Loomis. I fucking killed him. And then she is like somehow taken off the Greek letter necklace and uses it to like slash at his face.
It reminds me of the little girl from Elektra.
I only watched Electra ones. I don't remember much of it.
Well, there's a little girl who uses a chain to fuck people up.
So they're fighting, and that's when Courteney or Gale stumbles out.
Comes out. Yeah.
And then and when Aunt Jackie comes out, Sydney recognizes her immediately as like
Mrs. Loomis. And it's interesting because all this time we realize that it finally hits you that all this time that we've been seeing Aunt Jackie interact, she's only been interacting with Gale.
Mm-hmm.
That Sydney has never interacted with her. And then
it's very
clicks.
much like a Sixth Sense moment where you're like, oh yeah. And apparently, so Gale's like, I've seen pictures of Billy's mom. Like that's not her. Mm-hmm. And Aunt Jackie walks as like 60 pounds and a lot of work. She's real proud of herself. And then they go into this weird thing about how they met on like a psycho website and connected, and Mickey had this plan, and so Billy's mom funded it, but it was like and Mickey's like, yeah, I can't wait for the trial. Here we go. And she's like, there ain't gonna be a trial. Pow pow. And shoots Mickey. While this distraction is happening, Gale, once again, like Gale really does, in her weird little way, she is very much willing to sacrifice herself for Sydney, because she pushes Sydney out of the way. And at the same time, Mickey, as he's like slowly dying from his gunshot wounds, shoots Gale. Gale falls into the orchestra pit, and Aunt Jackie is now going into her tirade about how this has nothing to do with anything. I don't want fame. I don't want fortune. This is just some good old fashioned revenge because you killed my son, my Billy. Like he was a good boy.
And your mom was a whore. You know, gotta throw that in there. And it's
then
all fucking Maureen every goddamn time.
And at one point, like Sydney's like, your son was fucking insane. And Aunt Jackie responds, was that a negative, disparaging remark about my son? I'm like, oh, this is big Karen energy now. And then she's like, I'm sick of everyone blaming the parents. If it wasn't for your whore mom breaking up my marriage, causing my husband to leave me, this would have never happened. And then, I mean, this is the Sydney we know, because she's like, isn't Mickey supposed to be dead? And so that causes Aunt Jackie to turn around, and Sydney has like a prop bottle and smashes it over her head so that she can get away. She runs backstage, grabs an axe, and starts just like hacking the rope. So there's like lights falling. There's like, she's also doing like all the Foley effects. So it's like, the lights are flashing, the thunder's going, like trying to give her that sensory overload while she is like still hacking at ropes, dropping props, hoping to like hit her. And Jackie starts trying to climb a set wall, question mark.
And why do this, like when she falls and the set starts to fall on her, why does it feel like she feels those things are heavy? Shouldn't those things have been kind of like,
they're like
soft?
styrofoam?
Yeah, I was confused. I was too.
I was too. I was like, and I'm like, Sydney, don't trust that bitch ain't dead. She got styrofoam rocks on her. So Sydney kind of like, everything kind of quiets down, and so she's trying to figure out what to do next. She sees the exit, but it's like at the end of a really long hallway, so she moves to start heading towards the exit, and Jackie pops back up again, and she has one of the knives, and so she's trying to stab Sydney. The gun is like discarded, and Sydney sees it, so she's trying to get at it, and then Cotton Weary shows up with the mystery gun. Or I guess no,
there was two guns.
There were two guns, because
yeah.
Mickey had one and then Mrs. Loomis had one. And so Cotton Weary shows up, grabs one of the guns, and
so then
he's trying to process what's going on. Who's this random lady fighting with Sydney? And so Sydney's like, this is Billy's mom, and he's like, what? Like the way he delivers that one, like, come again. And so
it's like, why isn't this shit over with, man?
So Cotton has the gun on Aunt Jackie. Aunt Jackie has Sydney knife to her throat, arguing with Cotton about bullshit now. And Cotton's kind of like, well, isn't this a predicament? Ain't that Diane Sawyer interview looking pretty good to you now, Sydney? And Sydney like doesn't even hesitate. She's like, consider it done. And he's like, pow, pow. And Aunt Jackie, I don't do gun noises very well. Why are you laughing at me?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just, it was unexpected.
Pew, pew. That's
I'm fine now.
I don't think you are. And then Cotton goes, wow, that was intense. I hope you know I would never hurt you, Sydney.
Bitch, and he's like, get out of here.
And then she's like, Cotton, just give me the fucking gun. Like we're not gonna mince words. We're not gonna do this. We're
just
not
give
gonna
me
do
the
that.
gun.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here comes Gail rising like a phoenix. Yeah. And then they both have guns, and they the way that they took their stance, they look like they
Boondock Saints.
Yes. 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 200, Alex. 200.
They're just like hovering over. Mickey does do like, because they're talking about how they think Miss Loomis is gonna pop back up, but it's actually Mickey behind them, and they're just like hovering over, like pow pow, like just, I don't know how else to do gun noises. shooty.
I think it's also that you like you pull out your fake gun and you go pow pow. Oh. Oh, can we make it through? Can we make it through?
We're almost done. So anyway, they learned from the first movie, Double Tap. And so they make sure everyone real dead.
Yes. Dead.
And
I mean, Sydney goes in so much to the point that she goes and she pops a cap in Mrs. Loomis's head one last time to make sure she don't rise from the ashes.
Exactly how she did her son.
Yes. Damn. I feel like she's become a sociopath herself.
Yeah.
The way like, how easy it is for her to like how easy it was to kill her was scary.
Yeah. So now we see very similar to the ending of the first movie. It's an exterior shot. And as all the events are happening, it's slowly panning out. And so we see, or we hear someone say, we found someone, or we have someone, and they wheel out Dewey. So Dewey is not dead. He must be high on some like
because he like
noxious
has
gas.
His hands
he's like, yeah, he kind of is flailing his hands, just like kill. Like, he like calls for her, and then as they're like loading him in the ambulance, he's like, okay, bye-bye. Like he does that thing, but Gail's like, no, I'm going with him. So she hops in the ambulance. Gail's super happy because he ain't dead. And Sydney, like obviously all the press is like running after her, like, give us a statement. What is it like to be a hero a second time? And she's kind of like, you need to go ask Cotton. He's actually the hero. So she like
finally gives him his due. Jesus.
Yes. And Cotton's kind of cocky about it. He's like, hey, I'd love to talk to everyone, pulling business cards out of his wallet. But there's a price for everything. Type thing. And then the last lines of the movie is like, well, I'll tell you one thing though, it's gonna make a hell of a movie. Jesus. And then goes to credits, and that is Scream 2.
Jesus. Oh Lord. So just a few notes before we go into our ratings. So we know that the script was leaked. The cast was taking bets on like who's going to make it to the end and who the killers' identities were. David Arquette actually won.
I kind of find this really interesting that they knew, the production companies knew how big Scream was and how popular it was. And so when they saw that Scream 2 was coming out the same day, they pushed back the release dates for Tomorrow Never Dies, a James Bond movie, and Titanic to avoid competition with Scream 2.
That's crazy.
That's insane, but like that shows you the power that like Scream had when it came out, and the franchise, like it had a hold on the millennials.
For sure. It did so well. Well,
really
I think this is one of my favorite factoid. You ready?
Ready.
Because Matilda. So the Omega Beta Zeta sorority house in Scream 2, where Sarah Michelle Gellar's Cece would actually meet her demise, was also used in Matilda as Miss Trunchbull's mansion. And I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but we all know. Some of us know.
So a couple of cameos. Following up his cameo as a janitor in Scream, Wes Craven crops up as a doctor in the hospital after Sydney is attacked, and Kevin Williamson appears as a talk show host.
In the beginning with Cotton.
Yeah.
Eric Mabius from Ugly Betty, Resident Evil, Welcome to the Dollhouse fame. He actually auditioned for the role of Derek, which was ultimately given to Jerry O'Connell. Jerry O'Connell and Sarah Michelle Gellar were dating at the time of shooting of Scream 2. And I don't know if you remember this, but there's a scene when Randy and Sydney are walking together and they're talking, and Randy just switches to an odd accent, like a British accent. halfway through this scene, and he says he has no idea why he did that. It was an odd choice in the moment, and somehow it just made it into the final cut. It does seem like a Randy move, but it was interesting.
Oh, it took me out of the movie. Like when he did that, I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Jamie Kennedy? Like
all the time.
Were you shooting this movie and another movie and like got your character swapped for a second? Like what is happening?
I don't know. But it never, all the times I've watched this movie, it never took me out of the movie. I just thought it was normal. I don't know.
Jamie Kennedy just doing Jamie Kennedy shit.
Yeah. All right. So now that we got that off our plate, let's go to our ratings. Jackie, present day Jackie, how does she feel about Scream 2?
I mean, I didn't hate it. I think because I love the characters. So
yeah.
And it wasn't a terrible movie. Like there was more gore and stuff, which I appreciated. The whole theater scene at the end really sticks out. And that's what I really, really remembered from watching it when it first came out. So, I mean, probably a 2-day rental, but I don't hate it. It's just there.
Yeah. You know, I had some hot takes in the beginning, obviously. I just feel like I want to reiterate, I think diversity is important, but not for the sake of it. It's almost like somebody sent a company line like, oh, well, all of a sudden we had to hire a bunch of Black people, and then you don't know what to do with it because you really haven't made it a priority of diversity. Then it just makes me even more upset.
It felt like it was very much like, who are the hottest 2 Black actors right now? Get them for cameos in this movie.
Mm-hmm. And then the other 2 Black characters were just going to waste them as characters. And to, you know, in other movies, you have a ton of white characters that are they're wasted as well. I get that. But when you don't have a lot of something and then you finally do add it, it was disappointing.
Yeah.
So I do want to give it a 2-day rental. Y2K Danielle watched this as a comfort movie. And we know that's weird because I don't like scary movies, but this does, I feel like this is a rom-com. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me scared or jump or anything. Whatever. So I'm going to give it a 2-day rental. I don't watch it anymore. And I had a hard time getting through it, but I also don't hate it because I love the Scream franchise so much.
Yeah.
But it could have been better. When we rewrite it, as if we know how to write a damn script. Well, you probably do, but I don't.
And it's weird because like Scream, you saying I just love the Scream franchise, but really we just love the original. And like our love is so big for the original. We don't care what the sequels are. We're going to watch them. Like that is huge. Because most of the time you can separate, well, the first one was good, but the rest of them like fucking sucked. But this is just like you say you love the Scream franchise, but really it's just
I love Scream.
You love
But
Scream.
I do remember when I was younger, I very much liked Scream 2. The problem is that progress happens. Like Scream 1 was amazing. It lives on its own. It's a classic. But Scream 2 wasn't, out of especially all the horror movies that were coming out, Scream was still above and beyond the other slashers that were coming out at that time in the 90s.
Yeah.
Scream 2. I didn't hate Scream 4. I need to rewatch it to see if I still feel that strongly, but I remember not hating it and thinking, oh, this is much better than Scream 3. And I'm really hoping the reviews for Scream 5 have been really, really good. So
yeah,
tell us if you're going to watch Scream 5, if you're excited. Do you feel like you like all of the Scream franchise, or is it just that the first one is so good that you're here for the long haul? And you can do that by hitting us up on our social handles, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube at No More Late Fees.
And you can also call into our quick drop number 909-601 and MLF 909-601-6653 and leave feedback, suggest future movies, tell us your opinions. We love, I know I hear from a lot of people that they kind of talk back to us. They engage in the conversation while they're listening to the podcast. So if you have an argument, a really point, a hill you're willing to die on, please call in. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
And if you love the show, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us get more exposure to new listeners. And Spotify has a new feature where you can give us a 5-star rating if you're listening there.
And they also have a new feature where you can watch the video. Although most of our episodes are up on our YouTube page, Spotify now allows you to upload the video along with the audio. So if you'd like to watch along with us, Spotify allows you to do that.
But if you are feeding for some more No More Late Fees, Jackie, tell them how else they can get some fun clips.
You can become one of our Patreon besties. Patreon.com/No More Late Fees. You'll get exclusive content, stickers, Ask Me Anything, polls, bonus videos, live Spotify playlists, and more. So head on over to Patreon. And our other podcasters out there, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, currently have a podcast, we highly recommend the program Descript, DESCRIPT. It is an editing program that you upload your audio/video to. It transcribes it, and you can edit the audio and video as you would a Word document. You can do searches for filler words, remove all of those ums in one easy click. I will say that it has made my editing process so much easier. It is well worth the subscription, and you can get a discount if you go to our link tree and click on our affiliate link. So highly recommend Descript for your editing needs. And until next time, be kind and rewind.